In the Walking Dead universe, walkers are just as much as an antagonistic threat as humans are, but occasionally they become even more dangerous. I know we have variants now, and that's cool and all, but I want to talk about regular, everyday walkers. Specifically, I want to talk about them at their most dangerous. Since you saw the title, you know I want to talk about herds. Herds are large amounts of walkers who've usually grouped up through environmental circumstances like being drawn together by sound or the opportunity to eat. I've always felt that herds are fascinating just by their sheer size alone, but mainly it's because walkers just don't feel entirely dangerous anymore unless they're in these huge groups. So today, I thought I'd look at all the herds in the show and talk about them. Now, without any further ado, let's get started. To see the very first herd in the show, we, funny enough, have to go back to the very first episode of Season 1. I won't do a full rundown of this episode, but we know what happens here. After riding through the quiet Atlanta streets, Rick is eventually swarmed by walkers and is forced into the iconic tank. It's at the very end of the episode where we see just how many walkers are in the surrounding area. We don't see all of the walkers in the city, but this alone is big enough to call it the very first herd we ever get to see. It's so cool that Darabont was able to give this show such a scale in just the first episode. He truly did pull off something incredible for television, and I wish he stuck around. Now, the next two herds, we have to go to the prime days of Season 2. In the first episode, before the group reaches the farm, they're forced to stop on the highway to fix the RV. While everyone scavenges, Rick keeps a watch out for walkers, and eventually he sees one, then another, then more.
Christ.
He tells everyone to hide, and that's when we see just how many there are. This is the first herd our group ever sees, and it's the biggest threat they've encountered so far. They're forced to hide until it leaves, but we all know Sophia isn't so lucky. Then, in the 13th episode titled Beside the Dying Fire, we open up the shot in Atlanta. Now, we know of course by this point in this season our group is at the farm, so why are we in Atlanta? Well, this is where the show does something it rarely does. This opening doesn't feature any of the main cast at all, and it's the first time the show ever does something like this. This scene brilliantly shows the causation of what will inevitably be our chaotic season finale. I love the decision to do this so much. We see the dead as they're feasting in the streets of downtown Atlanta until a helicopter flies overhead, drawing their attention to the point where they all collectively follow it out of the city. In this next scene, we see the dead in bigger numbers as they walk through the countryside, now outside of Atlanta. Momentarily, they're halted by a fence, but eventually break through, pouring in by the dozens. When we next see them, it's nighttime, and they're walking through the woods. Suddenly, a gunshot catches their attention, and they begin to follow it. This is when we realize that we're picking up right where the last episode ended. The gunshot that drew the walkers is the same one that ended Shane. This was the first true horde we ever got, and it was phenomenal. This was our group's temporary home, so the stakes were higher than ever, and the episode before this was so emotional that it immediately elevated all emotions for this episode. This shot right here is one of my favorites in the series. I know everyone watching, including me, wanted to see how our group handled this horde, but in the end, it became too much to even fight against. Our group has some cool action moments, but it's to no avail. The only person that stood a chance was Herschel and his legendary shotgun with infinite ammo. Shockingly, only 2 people die here. Jimmy dies in the RV, and Patricia gets snatched up by a walker that's also a part-time running back. I've never seen speed like this from a walker. It's actually crazy. All jokes aside, this herd changed everything for the group. I believe this is when Rick realized the power walkers have when they congregate together in large numbers and travel together over large distances. Later in the show, we see how serious he is about taking care of these herds, and I believe it started here. This episode is truly a banger. It gave us the conclusion to Shane's story, our first herd, the group on the road again without a home, the reveal that everyone's infected, and the first shot of the prison, our group's future home. It's not until season 4 when we get another. The group becomes terribly sick, and in a last-ditch effort, Daryl, Tyrese, Bob, and Michonne drive 2 hours away to a veterinary college to try to find antibiotics. As they're on the road, they hear the terminus message over the radio for the first time.
Alive.
This distracts them from the road, causing Daryl to drive into a group of walkers. He stops the car, and as the camera pans around, we see a massive herd completely blocking their path. This is the biggest herd we see in the show up to this point, and I love this shot so much. The next herd comes in just the very next season, and I talked about it in my video on self-help, so here's that. After they get the truck on the road, it breaks down, and while being stranded, they smell something in the air.
Wind's picking up, you're about to smell it.
Oh, what is that?
Whatever's making that stench, it ain't nothing nice.
When they find the source of it, it's a massive horde. Now this one takes the spot as the biggest herd in the show so far, and it's fascinating to witness. This won't be the last time I say this either, because the herds just keep getting bigger from here, but I love this episode, obviously, and this is where I found the concept of herds to be intriguing. Now, the next time we see a herd is only 13 episodes later in the very first episode of the 6th season. Personally, I think this episode is just phenomenal. I always want to talk about this on its own at some point, so I'll just hit the key points on the herd. Rick and Morgan go outside of Alexandria to dispose of Pete's body. When they enter a clearing through the woods, we see it's a rocky cliff overlooking a quarry filled with hundreds of walkers. Morgan inspects through his binoculars, and we see they're being blocked in by 2 tractor trailers on opposite sides. We see more sliding into the quarry being drawn by the sound, and Rick says this.
This is how.
How what?
How the community's still here. They've had walkers, but a lot of them, maybe most of them, they wound up here.
So here's why they've remained virtually untouched. Since Rick knows the devastation they can wreak, he makes a plan to direct them away from Alexandria. We see as the episode shifts from present to the past how they plan on doing it. I know this decision was a little controversial with viewers, but I found it effective, and it made an exciting high-stakes first episode with a lot of personal developments and essential moments that fill in gaps in time. We see the group set up roadblocks to physically force the herd away from Alexandria, while they use cars to bait the walkers away, giving us this awesome shot. Despite some problems, the overall plan is working, but as we reach the final moments of the episode, we hear a roaring horn in the distance.
What the hell is happening? That's a horn or something.
This was a crushing way to end the episode as we see the group panicking and half the walkers being diverted from the plan and heading towards the horn, seemingly coming from home. By the end of episode 3, we see Abraham and Sasha on the road having successfully diverted one half, and Daryl arrives to meet them with his half nowhere in sight. This split-off herd ends up being the problem for the first 9 episodes until the group ends up killing all of them. This herd is huge and was without a doubt the biggest problem as far as walkers go since the farm got overrun. The next time we see a herd is in the 9th episode of season 7. Our group is gearing up to fight Negan, and they find cars on the highway connected by a steel cable and rigged with explosives. As they meticulously try to remove them, we see a herd getting closer and closer.
Rick.
This is when Michonne and Rick get in separate cars and decide to use the metal cable in the coolest scene in the entire show. They cut down walkers dozens at a time, but of course they don't get all of them before they're forced to run. This herd is different from the others, being that it wasn't a current threat to the group, but one that happened to appear seemingly out of nowhere. This next herd kind of flew under the radar for me, and I almost forgot it. During the Season 8 episode Mercy, when all of our communities are united and gearing up to wage war on the Saviors, we see that a part of their plan is to bring a huge herd of walkers to the Saviors' compound.
Ah, there.
Okay. Got it?
Yeah.
They use explosives from the highway, and Daryl shoots them one at a time to direct the walkers straight to the compound. Rick blows up the RV parked in front of the building, and this allows for the huge herd to walk right in. This was a big moment, and the plan to trap the Saviors using this herd was brilliant. This is the last herd we see up until after the war, but I love it, and I can't believe I almost forgot it. In the 5th episode of the 9th season titled What Comes After, we see another herd appear out of nowhere. This is the infamous episode where Rick gets written out of the show and into a different one. We don't see wide shots of this herd, but what we can see, we can tell it's a very big one. This shot of them falling into the water suggests hundreds or thousands of them. It's hard to tell. Now we're going to fast forward a few episodes to the Whisperers arc. And as you know, the Whisperers use walkers to their advantage, especially Alpha, who uses walkers to threaten the group several times. In the season 9 episode, The Calm Before, we see Alpha, the leader of the Whisperers, take Daryl at gunpoint to the top of a ridge. Here we see she's amassed a massive herd of walkers and Whisperers. She tells Daryl,
"The only reason you and your friends are alive is because I let you live."
This, of course, is a huge problem for the group, and they spend a lot of episodes in search of her and her herd. We later find out that Alpha keeps her herd in a huge underground cave system. Unfortunately for her, she never gets to fully use the might of this herd, but Beta does. Beta amasses even more walkers to add to the herd and surrounds the group inside a hospital. Eventually, he's brutally defeated, and the group eliminates the herd by luring them all off a cliff. Alright, I was so close to stopping the list right here, but I can't because of my weird sense of completion. So for the next spot on the list, I have a random herd that we see in season 11 in the episode titled For Blood. I can't tell you what's going on in this episode because I stopped caring during season 11. In my research, I saw that this herd showed up briefly, and it's a good size. I also saw that a couple Whisperers were using this herd, so that's pretty cool. Now, for the last herd we ever see in this show, we have the Commonwealth herd. Like I said with the last one, I don't know what's going on in this episode because I checked out pretty early. But I saw there was a herd, so here we are. There's some okay shots of it, so we can see it's a good amount, and it's a tough way to end the list, but the same can be said for this whole season. So that is all the biggest herds of walkers in the show. I spent some time trying to figure out what exactly makes a lot of walkers a herd, and I'm defining it as too many for our group to handle. I was so surprised by how many massive herds are shown in this series and just how many times the walkers were a problem. I've heard many times from fans, and I've even personally said that it's felt like the zombies have taken a back seat in this show to make room for human conflict, but in making this video, I can see that that's not entirely true. No matter how many times there's a new human threat, there will always be a threat of walkers, and seeing them in herds numbering in hundreds or thousands makes them a bigger threat than any antagonistic group. So after watching all these episodes I needed in order to get a collection of these herds, I sort of have a new appreciation for the horror that walkers provide. So now with that being said, I think we're going to attempt to rank these herds by their size. I wish I could give you the most detailed number based on calculations and really flex some math skills, but I have none. I'm just going to look at them and give my thoughts the best I can, starting from the smallest to the biggest based on what's shown on screen only. Okay. Out of all the herds we've seen, I believe the smallest one is the one we see on the highway in season 2. It was a small herd, but certainly enough to make our group hide. Even if a herd of this size showed up in the later seasons, I believe our group, experienced as they are, would still run or hide, but with that being said, it's still the smallest. I can't say much about this next one because it doesn't get a lot of screen time, but I feel confident putting it here just based on the shots we see. It's clearly not a very big herd, but it's definitely bigger than the last herd. I just don't think it beats our next spot. So I'm going to put the Little Whisper season 11 herd right here. Now for the next spot, I think it would be the herd that attacked the farm. This herd is bigger than the last, obviously, but it's nowhere near the numbers we'll eventually see. Now this one feels strange to put so low, but based on the shots we see, I feel confident putting the Commonwealth herd right here. It's definitely bigger than the herd on the farm, but it's nowhere near the size of the herd shown in the previous seasons. Also, this herd doesn't cause much devastation and gets dispatched pretty quickly. I feel like if this was the last herd in the show, they could have gone way bigger, but oh well. The herd that I feel is definitely bigger than the Commonwealth herd is the one that the group uses to trap the Saviors in season 8. This shot wasn't convincing enough for me, but the final shot is what convinced me. I truly do feel like this shot tells me that the herd is bigger than the Commonwealth herd. It personally just looks like more walkers, and the CGI that they use for it is doing most of the heavy lifting here. For the next one, I'm saying the Atlanta herd from the first episode is taking the spot as a slightly bigger herd. This is a perfect time to say that this show loves to change the sides of herds at will when they switch from practical to CGI shots. Of course, they'd use CGI to inflate numbers, but in creating this video, it becomes very apparent, and this is the first example. The amount switches from this to this. So with that being said, this to me feels bigger than the last herd, but definitely not as big as the ones that follow it. For the next ones, it gets truly hard to tell which one is bigger, so bear with me. Because we don't get to see the full scale of it, I'm going to put Rick's final herd as the next spot on the list. This one might be controversial because I think the show wants you to think that this herd is massive, but when you're watching it, they don't show enough to make me think that. This is the best shot we get to see. If we saw wider shots, then maybe I could put it higher, but because of the clearer shots we see of other herds, I have to put it here. Now with these next two, I'm having trouble deciding which one is bigger. Of course, there's no accurate number, it's just something you have to eyeball. So with me not being entirely confident, I'm putting the season 4 herd and the season 7 herds together. We only get one really good shot of this herd in season 4, but it is a lot. It's definitely more than the rest we've seen, but I think it ties with the highway herd just because it's definitely not bigger than the other ones on this list. The highway herd is another example of inflated numbers when it comes to CGI. When we see the walkers here, it's easy to see that a decent herd is coming, but when it switches to shots like this, where they're cutting down walkers, the numbers have doubled in size. I mean, Rick and Michonne spend at least 20 seconds mowing down walkers before we see how much is left of the herd, and it's still an insane amount. So I'm going to say that these two come next on the list because the next herds clearly outnumber these. Now, for the biggest herds category, I gotta say that I think the pig farm herd comes next. There are obviously a ton of walkers here, and it definitely feels like more than the last, but I think that might be because that we get a full pan across the entire herd, but due to them being so spread out, it just appears to me that this herd is bigger than the last ones we talked about, but it's not as big as the ones that follow it. So it's cracking our top 3 spot. On to the second place for the biggest herd, I've got the quarry walkers. This herd is truly puzzling because the quarry looks like it's holding a lot of walkers, but it could be damn near the same amount of walkers from the previous entries. This is the one the show inflated the numbers with the most. When we see them in these shots, it feels to me like way more have been added for dramatic effect. Some of these shots are so puzzling to me because it feels like more than what was shown in the quarry. And all of these splitting off, apparently going to Alexandria, doesn't make sense either because the herd that attacks Alexandria is significantly smaller. If all the walkers right here had gone to Alexandria, the group wouldn't have stood a chance at all. They would have roamed the streets shoulder to shoulder. And don't get me wrong, the herd is huge, but our group did dispatch them in one night. It's the CGI shots that do the heavy lifting and truly elevate this to the number 2 spot. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the final herd that I believe is the biggest we've ever seen is none other than the Whisperers herd. I know this is probably no surprise and it feels like a duh moment. Of course, the antagonistic group that's known for using large herds of walkers as a weapon would have the biggest herd in the series, but hey, at least the showrunners got this right. I'm going to be encompassing the herd Alpha shows Daryl and Beta's final herd. I know of course they're the same herd, but I believe Beta has attracted even more walkers than what we saw here. Even seeing the amount of walkers Beta brought to Alexandria feels like more than the herd we saw in Alexandria. I mean, this is how packed Alexandria should have been when we saw the quarry herd split off in season 5. The real reason I came to this conclusion to begin with is this shot from the final episode of season 10. I feel like this is definitely the biggest herd of walkers in the show, period. This herd makes a hospital feel small in comparison, and the fact that there's still more pouring out from the tree line just seals the deal for me. So that is all of the herds in The Walking Dead explored and ranked in order from smallest to biggest in my personal opinion. Now there are definitely other herds in The Walking Dead shows that I want to talk about, but I'll get to all those in another video. I've just really wanted to talk about herds for a while now, and I'm glad people enjoy my Walking Dead content enough to keep tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and if there's anything you agree or disagree on, let me know in the comments. I'm working on more Walking Dead videos right now, and I'm trying to think about things that people haven't talked about, so if that kind of thing interests you, then hopefully you stick around for more. And if you have ideas about things you want to see, then let me know in the comments below. If you've made it this far, then I appreciate you watching, and hopefully you'll stick around for more. Thank you for being here. I will see you in the next one. Thank you guys. Peace.